Almost exactly 13 minutes past 6 this Friday morning. An environmental regulator, the Scottish Environment Protection Agency, says criminals are demanding a ransom to unlock its digital systems, which have been subjected to a cyber attack since Christmas Eve. It said international groups were likely to be behind the ransomware attack that's locked its emails and contact centre. Well, SEPA's chief executive is Terry Ahern. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Tell us a bit more about this. Just how serious is this and how badly is your system compromised?
Well, it's a significant cyber attack and a serious crime that's been committed against SEPA. So we've lost, for the time being, access to most of our data and systems, including things as basic as our email system. So from Christmas Eve, when it happened, we've engaged with Police Scotland and other cyber experts to understand what's happened and start our recovery process. What we haven't lost is our 1,200 expert staff. So we still have all the knowledge, experience and expertise of our staff. So on the very first day, we were able to put out flood alerts, one of our most important responsibilities. We've re-established our ability for people to ring in with pollution reports to attend significant events. So it's a very serious attack. It's taken away our access to our basic data and systems, but we have found ways in these first few weeks to ensure we can do our critical service provision to the people of Scotland. Yeah,
let me ask you about flood alerts, for example. You mentioned just now, this is a bad time of year, obviously. There's forecast of another beast from the east coming in next week, January, February. You know, we're used to flooding at this time of year. Your systems are still working, so it's not that side of things is going to be compromised, is it?
Well, when we found out about this on Christmas Day, we triggered our emergency processes, the standard things we put in place for any emergency situation. And that was one of the very first things we ensured, that our ability to get out flood alerts and warnings was strong. And it is. We can assure people that during this coming season, as you say, it's when we get some of the worst floods, we will be able to issue those alerts and warnings.
And do you know what the motive is for this attack? Because, I mean, you know, details of Scotland's water supply falling into the wrong hands is a fairly sinister thought. Should we be worried, or is it simply a financial transaction they're looking for?
Well, SEPA's not the first organisation to be hit by one of these major cyber attacks, and we certainly won't be the last. Unfortunately, it's a hideous type of crime that's becoming more and more common. So there's two impacts on our data. One is much of our data is still there. We just can't safely access it, and that may take some time to be able to do, and there may be some that we can't access. The cyber experts will work on that and advise us. In terms of the data that's actually been stolen by the criminals, it's 1.2 gigabytes, which, to put in context, is a fraction of what would be on one personal laptop. So it's still bad that that's gone, but what we are doing is working through that data. There's some data that relates to staff, and there's some data that relates to people who work with us, businesses we regulate, etc. So we are working through that. As we discover what it is, we contact people, we explain what the impact is, and we explain how they can protect their interests. So we have a good process for working through what that data is, how we can understand it, and how we can mitigate against any impacts.
Yeah, have they got access to details about your systems that they wouldn't be able to find elsewhere, for example?
Well, it's a criminal investigation, so we need to protect what's the evidence for the police. So I don't think there's significant concerns about our ability to protect the environment. We have the ability to protect the environment, and we were determined that these criminals will not stop us doing that. So we believe we can still do our job to protect the environment despite the lack of access we've got.
Who's done this? Who are they? Who's behind it? Do we know?
Well, the advice from the police that it seems likely that it's international crime. So we are working with the police, taking their advice about how we can protect the impact and minimise the impact.
And how do you get out of this without paying?
Well, we won't be using public funds to pay ransom to criminals. So this has commonly happened to other organisations. So we are following the experience and that others have had, the advice from the police. We will recover our ability to have data and systems. That may take some time, but others have been through this. We will not be using public funds to pay a ransom. We are already in the first 3 weeks re-establishing our ability to carry out our critical services, and over the next few weeks and months we will continue to do that so that we can protect the environment.
Okay, and in a sentence, if you could, should the public be worried about this?
I can assure the public that we will be able to do our job to protect the environment. As I said, others have been able to have worked through this when they're attacked. We will be able to do it too. We will protect the environment.
All right, Terry Ahern, Chief Executive of SEPA, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.